Hey there, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing well, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm doing great today. What are we getting into on the show for our listeners today?
Well, so you live in a completely different type of area than I do. I'm just curious. So you talk about the mountains a lot. So how far are the mountains? How far are they actually from your house?
Yeah, they're actually a little farther than I would like them to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Denver is interesting because it's a couple hours. You have to drive up into the Rockies, right? Up I-70. And it does take a few hours to really get into real mountains. You can go to Boulder and they're kind of hills, but the real mountains, like the 14,000 foot mountains, are a couple hours away still. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised. I don't know. I have just imagine you being surrounded by mountains.
No, I mean, you can see them from Denver.
Oh, okay.
But this is the city. Like, Denver's pretty urban. Like it's not the greatest city on earth, but it's it's livable. We've got breweries here. We've got what we need. Coffee shops. Those are the key things you need in life. So we're okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But today we're going to be talking about something that actually came up in your life, Lindsay, that you had kind of a debate about. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah. Well, speaking of coffee shops, I was in a coffee shop with my partner the other day, and my partner was saying something. I don't remember what my partner was talking about, but I heard my partner ask me, should I say further or farther here? And of course, my partner is a native speaker of English, right? And I kind of explained the difference. I thought for a minute and I refreshed my ESL teacher vocabulary. I even had to think for a minute, go back into the library, right? Because we teach this, if we teach classes in English, and I explained which one was correct. But what I'm saying is most native speakers are not clear on this entirely, I think. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those... you know the rule, but you don't know that you know the rule. You know how to use it, but it's hard to explain.
Or even,
or maybe they misuse it.
I think they don't know. I think a lot of native speakers really don't know when to use further and farther, and I think they mix it up. I think I'm going to start listening now.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
After today's episode.
Yeah. So, this is a great topic that we should definitely discuss. We haven't covered this in years. I was looking at. So it is definitely time for an update. So guys, remember to hit the follow button wherever you're listening to the All Ears English podcast. Don't miss anything from us.
Oh, this is so good. So let's just break it down. So the question for today is, what is the difference? When do I use farther? Michelle, can you spell that first one?
Yes. Farther.
And when do I use further? And how do we spell that one?
Further.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's start with farther. And I did say at the top of the show, I said the mountains are a little farther than I'd like them to be. Right? So what is farther for?
Yeah, this is about the physical distance. Think of it as something you could potentially actually measure, right? Like this is this far, this is that far. So for example, the office is farther from my house than I was hoping. I don't know if the commute will be too much for me.
So this, again, physical distance, right? This is the more straightforward one in my mind. I live farther from my parents than I want to, but it's not too bad, right? So your parents live in or they're in Florida or they're in Maryland? I'm confused.
Well, they're in Florida for the winters, but they're in Maryland for the rest of the year. And I would say... for the Maryland part, I would say this sentence, it's not too bad. It's better than it used to be. So physical distance, further, this is like a little bit more of the tricky one, I would say. But we can explain. So it's a little bit more abstract. It also means just like more. So can we discuss this further when I get off the phone?
All right. So here we're no longer talking about physical distance because here we're on the phone, first of all, and we're talking about something, right? So another example, we need some further negotiations before I sign on to anything. Another thing I could say was we need some additional negotiations, right? We need more negotiations.
Yep, exactly. So again, physical distance versus kind of this more abstract feeling. Lindsay, let's fill in the blank. Okay. We need to go over the design plan blank before we finish the meeting. Further or farther?
So hopefully our listeners are questioning too. It is further. We need to go over the design plan further before we finish the meeting. That means more. It just means more, right?
Yeah.
That's all it means. Yeah.
And here's the next one. How much blank, further or farther, is that airport from you? I don't want you to drive out of the way.
And this one is farther. This is the distance one. How much farther is that airport from you? I don't want to drive. I don't want you to drive out of the way. And we've done a whole episode on out of the way. If something is out of the way, guys, check our last month or so of episodes. You'll find something about directions, right?
Yep.
Good episode there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So what about, okay, so I think our listeners are probably pretty clear on further, farther. We've broken it down pretty clearly.
Yes.
What about adding farther away? I hear this away thing.
Yeah.
And then I wonder if our listeners are wondering what it means.
Yeah. So to me, it's hard to not add the away in certain situations.
Yeah.
But farther is just like more with comparisons, right? So I walked farther to the restaurant than my sister did. What about farther away? And Lindsay, you made that an interesting observation.
Yeah, if you look at the patterns here, it looks like most of the time farther away, we add the away when we're focusing on two objects, the distance between two specific objects or locations, right? But in addition to that, it's a little more conversational. It's more descriptive. Again, focuses on separation, which is what I just said, really. That's the same thing, right? It's more casual and it emphasizes that distance. So both can be used. Often you can use both, but not always, right?
Right. So we're going to show you an example of that in a second. But yeah, I think farther away can actually sometimes sound more natural. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes I was like when I was planning this episode, sometimes I had a hard time not adding away. It just felt more natural to me.
The word away seems to have this whimsical, magical feeling that makes things more natural. Like we've talked about, there I was reading away, or, that also makes things more, I don't know, feel more natural. It's interesting. That'll be another episode for another day. Totally different meaning, guys. But away has some kind of magical impact on English.
It's true. Have we done an episode on that?
I think Aubrey was going to do one. I'm not sure. It was somewhere in our plans, or we had talked about it.
I'll have to ask her.
Yeah,
but that's a great topic. So, again, so my son lives farther from me than my daughter, right? So,
yes.
So could you say my son lives farther away? Would that be okay?
I think you could.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, listen,
it just feels a little awkward, don't you think? Like it's a little hard to say.
Yeah,
my son, just because of the vowel sound, my son lives farther away from me. It doesn't feel as natural to go from farther in that context. But you could, because you're still talking about two distances, right? Where your son lives and where your daughter lives, or where you live. Multiple distances here.
We got a whole triangle here.
But here's one you could not add away to. What is it, Michelle?
I jogged farther than yesterday. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. So to me, you don't need it, right?
Yeah, because we're like comparing it to like ourselves, basically.
You're comparing today to yester's.
However, I mean, if you really if we want to drive ourselves crazy, you could say it's from the, was that what you were thinking too, Lindsay? Or are you like, oh, wait that.
Yeah, I was hesitating on that. I was thinking, I guess you could. I jogged farther away today than yesterday, farther away from where I started. Right?
Exactly. So it is kind of 2 points. So it is
kind of 2 points.
So it is very interesting how sometimes it just works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Right. I was just going to say, but you can only emphasize one thing in a sentence, right? You can really, the sentence should have a focus. And in this sentence, you're focusing on today versus yesterday.
Right.
Right. So if you're also focusing on that
the actual
distances, then it's a lot to say in one sentence. But you could actually say that. I'm going to overrule what I said before.
Overruled.
I jogged farther away than yesterday. Sure. Go for it. Right.
Go for it. Do it. So here's another one. I moved my seat farther away from the stage because the speakers were too loud.
And this is where away becomes really good because it's very explicit, right? It's your seat and the stage are the 2 points of distance that we're talking about, right? And we're increasing the distance between the two, and we want to be really explicit about that. But you could say also, I moved my seat farther from the stage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or she went to college farther away than I wanted her to. And I mean, to me, this just sounds so much more natural. I mean, that's really what this away is about to me here. It just sounds a little bit more natural, farther away rather than farther than I wanted her to. But that's, I mean, I don't see a problem with the other way either.
Yeah, she went to college, and the two distances here are probably where the family lived and the college, right? Yes.
Or what's one more example?
Okay, let me move the book farther away so you can see. So the two distances are where the book was and where the book's moving to, right?
Yeah. So again, sometimes there's this gray area, and what we don't want to do is say, "Oh my gosh, is it farther? Is it farther away?"
Yes, connection, right? We don't want to break the connection by wondering. We waste so much time in our own heads, and that's the whole idea of this show, is to get out of our heads, right?
I mean, already by knowing the difference between further and farther, like you're probably 50 steps ahead of most native speakers.
You really are. Well, clearly, because people are asking, right? It's true. I really don't think this is something that most native speakers could sit down and explain. So we're ahead of the game already. Yes. So let's go into a role play. So here, you and I are walking through London on vacation. Wow, we're so cosmopolitan.
We are. Okay.
All right. Wow. I love this neighborhood. I guess we should go back to the hotel.
Really? I'd love to explore it further.
Okay, I guess we can stay. We're farther from our hotel than I thought, and my feet hurt.
I know. I'm sorry I moved our hotel farther away from the main area. It was cheaper.
Oh, I don't know if we're good travel companions here, Michelle. Is this going to work out? Is this trip going to work out?
I don't know. We might need to separate.
It's hard when you go on vacation and you realize someone's not a walker. If you are a walker, when I go on vacation, I walk like 10 to 15 miles a day usually.
Yes.
If it's in a city. Right.
Even if like there were times, because when we were in Paris, even when we had the little kids, and we would still just, because it was easier for us to say, okay, let's just walk a full hour back to our hotel than to start folding up the stroller and getting on the train. And I mean, we like to walk, so, but
and Paris is a very beautiful walkable city too. If you have to walk somewhere, walk in Paris, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's break it down here. So I said, I love this neighborhood. And then I said, I guess we should go back to the hotel. So sort of a weird
You're like, this is great.
Opinion here.
Nah.
I want to go home.
Sometimes people just get tired all of a sudden. And you're like, wait, what? Like we were having, so I said, really? I'd love to explore it further. So, right. So further here is that more abstract idea, meaning more.
More. Yeah, you're just saying more. It's really that simple, right? And then I said, okay, I guess we can stay. We are farther from our hotel than I thought, right? So here we're talking about distance. Okay.
And then I said, I know, I'm sorry I moved our hotel farther away from the main area. It was cheaper. So,
so emphasizing on that distance even more, right? The separation between the original point and the new point, right?
Yeah.
Good.
So again, and I want to say there could be some additional differences that we didn't cover today, but I really just wanted to get the basics. Like today is about the basics, and further meaning more, not so much about the distance. Farther is generally about more, more about a distance you could measure, physical distance. So, that's not to say that there can't be ever times where things overlap or things like that, but this is the basic idea.
Yes, really good stuff. So guys, try this out. Go out into the world, try your further and your farther, and most importantly, connect, right? That is the key. I mean, that's the point of every episode on this show. Guys, go and find episode, do you know what the date was of that episode, Michelle? It's in the last few months. It's called
it's a Saturday episode.
It's a Saturday episode, Sassy Saturday. Do these two English words make you anxious? It's a great provocative title. So go check out that episode. And any final thoughts for today, Michelle? I mean, I think you said it, right? Today's about the basics.
Don't stress.
Don't stress.
Focus on the connection. Focus on the one main difference that we talked about. And you should be good to go. I just wanted to let you know. So that episode, that was from Saturday, February 7th.
Nice. About a month back. All right. Good stuff. Michelle, you have a good rest of your day and we'll talk soon. All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.